I'm starting a new podcast where I'm going to be interviewing women in ministry, just to learn a bit about their journey and how they grew their ministry so that other women can learn from what they're doing. Hi, I'm really happy to have with me today Tanya Hughes OBE. She's a prominent Christian known for rising up the ranks in the probation service, but not only that, she's a follower of the Lord and she runs a couple of non-profits, but she's going to correct me if I've got that wrong. I know for one, she runs this non-profit called Girls to School that provides toiletries for women, young girls rather, in the UK and abroad, so that their period, they call it period poverty, I think the phrase is, does not stop them from getting an education. But she's going to unpack everything about what she does, because I know that's not the only thing that she does. But I'm really honored to have Tanya here with me today. So hi, hope you're well, my sweetheart, and coping well in lockdown.
I'm well, thank you. I'm coping. I'm learning to put a routine into my day and not just wake up and start work, and trying to get a bit of exercise in there and thinking about my food.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, I'm well. I'm trying to utilize the time productively.
Okay.
See the silver lining in the midst of all.
Yeah, there is silver lining to be had,
Yeah.
even in the midst of a situation like this, because we know that Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith. So we know that good can come out of everything. So I'm really excited to learn a bit more about your organization and the other charity work that you do, which you're going to fill me in on. So, but I want to specifically talk to you about your non-profit organization, Girls to School, which I just learned about. And I just want to find out a little bit about why, when you set it up, why you set it up, and what it actually does.
Okay, so I'll start off by saying I am the way that God made me. We're all very different. We're all, unique. And I am solution focused. So I see a problem and I think, how can we fix this? What can we do to fix this problem? And so on a trip to Kenya a few years ago, with a trip with Compassion, I'd seen some girls on it was like a day centre, and there were a lot of girls there, and I was speaking to one of the young ladies and I said, why is there so many girls here? And she said, well, and why are they not at school? And she said, well, it's their time of the month, and they can't afford sanitary products, so they tend to use pieces of material, and it's really embarrassing for them. One, they don't know what's happening to their body because they don't talk to anybody about it. And two, they because there's lots of cultural issues around that as well. And it just got me thinking, like, can you imagine? And then with my research mind is actually, they could be missing up to 3 months a year of school. So that already puts them on a back foot in terms of education. And so the equality isn't there and opportunities are not there in the same way. And so it kind of played, and I prayed about it, but there wasn't an instant solution in my mind. I thought about raising money and posting sanitary pads, but whatever we do, I think should be sustainable. And then it was about a year later. So I'd prayed about it and I'd kind of left it with God. And by chance, I was introduced to somebody who had set up an organization in Uganda. She was based in Denmark. And she was making reusable pads. And they were beautiful. They had like an African print on them. They had a clip, and they were different sizes, different thicknesses. They were just,
really? Oh, wow.
Really, really beautiful. I should have one here to show you, but we have them on the website. And so she said, in that connection, I said, if I raise some money, then I'll buy some off of you, and then I'll go back to Kenya to help these girls. And so that was kind of the genesis of Girls to School. And that culminated in, I took my son to Kenya. We raised enough money, and I just did a GoFundMe.
How much did you raise?
£2,000, and I used that all on the sanitary products.
Good.
And just paid my own way to get there and accommodation. I'm really bad at fundraising. I'm really bad at asking people for money. I did a couple of talks in a few churches, and actually I was quite surprised at the response. I got a good response from women there. And so we raised enough to have 200 packs made. And in each pack, there's 4 pads in a waterproof bag. So that would be enough for them for the month, because they could use, they could wash them and go, and they dry quickly because obviously in Kenya it's hot. And so we went back and we went to the slums in Mathare. And the last time I'd been there with Compassion, we were there with armed guards. But me and my son, we just popped up, went into Mathare, where there's like something.
Just you and your son. Brilliant.
I was born and bred in Hackney. That's another story for another day. But yeah, so there's like over 600,000 people that live in this slum. There's open sewage. But I found the people to be warm, and the young lady that I connected with on my previous trip, she organised things from that end, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. We ran workshops for 2 days. We had the 200 girls come in. We had nurses coming, talking, giving education about HIV. We talked to the girls about what was happening to their body. And we opened with, how many of you have shared when, or told anybody when your period started, and not one of them put their hand up?
Oh, right, okay. And
you're like, can you imagine going through that and not knowing what's happening to your body, and thinking, and a lot of them thought it was shameful, and so they hid it. And so we was able to provide them with that. And that for me was, I thought, well, now these girls can go to school for a year without having to think about it, which for me was amazing. So that was the start of it. And then it evolved. So I don't know if you want me to go into the kind of how it evolved now, or
yeah.
Okay.
Let's just continue. Yeah, because we can weave it back to wherever we need to go.
So there was one of the issues that I had, is that the infrastructure wasn't there for me in terms of having a connection with an organisation in Kenya to enable me to make this sustainable, because the plan, I had a bigger plan. And I was linked in with another charity in Ghana.
I was just going to say to you, because I just saw you on Facebook in Ghana, something in Kenya. Okay, but you're explaining now.
Yeah, so how I got to the point of Ghana. So when I was linked in with an organisation called the Street Kids Empowerment Foundation. And so I took a trip to meet the founder of this charity. He's a Christian guy. His wife was working with him in the charity. And again, that was in the middle of it. I wouldn't say a slum, but it was a kind of a rougher part of Accra in Ghana. And what he was doing there, I just found phenomenal. There was just so much integrity in what he was doing. He'd built this 4-story building in the middle of, where people were living in metal kind of containers. And it just had an amazing kind of support for the street children. And the street children, what I mean by that are the children that you would see selling at traffic lights, that they live on the streets. And a lot of them are sent from rural areas into the city to make money. And they're taken advantage of, and they don't necessarily go to school, even though schooling's free in Ghana. So we started to work together to see how I could help support that charity with the work that I was doing. And alongside that, he has other kind of initiatives, like the Future is Female. So I've been there to go and run seminars with girls, just to talk about, and I'm a firm believer in your situation doesn't determine your destination. And my life is a testament to that. And so I share my story with them to encourage them and to make them think outside of what they can see and dream bigger. And they all love God. And, sometimes it's quite heartbreaking to see them worship in the way that they do and go back and sleep on the street. And, to say that he's an awesome God, he's my provider. And I'm like, but you don't have anything. And to see them have that faith and that heart, it is it's humbling. It's really, really is humbling. And so I kind of made a pact and said to God, I want to do what I can to help support this charity out there.
Remind me of the name of it again, please.
Street Children Empowerment Foundation.
Okay.
SEF, yeah. And so they provide packs for children to go to school. They have after school clubs. They have education for their parents. They've just opened a coffee shop and they're training people in how to kind of operate in that. It is a wonderful, wonderful ministry, and he's kind of given his life over to this work. So in the trips that I've been to, it's been about supporting different aspects of that charity, with us kind of planning on how we can create and have a clear plan on how we can put a business in place to help support what he's doing. And the business that I want to put in place, I've just started my MBA, not that I'm not busy enough as it is, but that was to kind of inform and give myself the knowledge on what I'm going to need to help set this business up. What we want to do is train. I want to create training packages to enable NGOs, non-profit charities, starting in West Africa and spreading, but to train them in how to make the sanitary pads themselves.
Okay.
So then it's a sustainable solution for them, and they're not there isn't this kind of hero from the West coming to support them. It's about how can you kind of give them the fishing rod to fish themselves. So the plan will be for them to do that. Then I'm working with professionals in Ghana to look at how we can market this product to sell to professionals, so that it creates an income for the NGOs, as well as enabling them to be able to give the street children the product for free.
Right. Okay.
So it's this kind of whole kind of sustainable thing. And actually, the professionals I've shared the product with, they've just said that they would definitely use it, because there's a massive problem with the disposing of disposable sanitary products, because they flush them down the toilet, they don't throw them in the bin, and it's making an issue for the sewage.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So you might be walking on the beach and something will.
Ooh.
Right. So there's a kind of environmental aspect to it. There is this empowering an income stream for them, but also at the same time, it's being able to provide the girls with something, which was the genesis of it, which was enabling them to go to school.
So what it sounds like is that Girls to School has developed quite organically. So it sounds like it's developed. It's not been linear. It sounds like it's been developed as a result of the relationships that you've developed, going to Kenya and then going to Ghana. So what I will say, what I will ask you, because I've got this list of questions, is obviously faith, prayer, and scripture have played an important part in the life of a believer. So how have these things interplayed in the development and growth of Girls to School? Because you said you were praying and then you didn't really get an answer until a year later.
I think it's important my journey. I was saved in my 30s, and as soon as I was saved, I started to feel a burden for different groups of people. And I never, I came from a very wild background to God showing me, like Jeremiah 29:11 was my kind of scripture, that there was a plan and purpose for my life. In the midst of the mess, there was a plan and there was a purpose for my life. And that was something that I wasn't in a rush to find out what that purpose was, but I held on to the fact that there was a purpose, that I wasn't a mistake. And in all the ministries that I've ever started, it's come from there is a purpose. Lord, you've got to show me what that is. And so even though I had to wait a year for an answer for this, nothing before it's time.
Okay.
Because if I do things in my own understanding and my own strength, they're just going to crash. Because sometimes we can think it is something when it actually isn't. Sometimes when we get a kind of a revelation for a ministry, it's a seed, but it isn't fully developed. And so sometimes you have to allow that to kind of, grow in the soil before.
You said that you've prayed about other ministries, so I'm going to take it that Girls to School, which I'm talking to you about, is not your first ministry.
No, definitely not.
All right, okay. So what other ministries?
When I was first saved, I had the real thing. I had a real hunger within me that I just didn't want people to go to hell. I didn't grow up in church at all, so I had none of that kind of Sunday school teachings or all I knew is that Jesus had changed my life. And I wanted that for other people. So I had this crazy fire where I was just going out on the streets. I wasn't a street evangelist, but I looked for ministries that I could help support. And the first one was Teen Challenge, which is they work with it's a rehab for substance and alcohol misuse. It's a Christian rehab, and they had an outreach in Whitechapel, and so I went out for about 5 years every Monday night feeding the homeless, and it was from there, and it was from the serving there that God opened my eyes to sex workers.
Right. Okay.
Before I was saved, let me tell you, I couldn't stand them, and forgive me, Lord, but I couldn't. And I used to tell them about themselves because that's who I was. But as soon as I was saved, I had this sorrow, I used to feel really, really sad for them. Sometimes I'd weep when I see them, and I'd be like, where's that coming from? It was a burden. I had a burden. So when I was doing the homeless and feeding them, I used to just love their stories and look forward to going out, be out there till 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And then God kind of led me to look around to the fact that there were no women coming for food or for prayer or whatever. And I was like, why not? Why are they not coming here? And then it kind of dawned on me, they are the men that we were feeding were actually either their pimps or their drug dealers or they were sleeping. They were victims to the men that we were,
helping.
Yeah, exactly. So then I just got a group of women who were part of this outreach, and I said, let's go and find them. I didn't know what I was going to say to them. Like, let me tell you, I had no
Glad
clue.
I wasn't part of your ministry.
Yeah. Come on, we're going down these streets.
No, that's good.
Yeah, so we started going out, and I, to be fair, it was awkward because some would just look at me like, have you lost your mind, kind of thing. But I said, Lord, you're going to have to tell me what to say because I've got, and there was one girl in particular, and she will stay with me forever. And I do pray that one day I will get to see her. It was on the high road. It was near Aldgate. And I just said to her, can I pray for you? And she said, yeah. She was engaging conversation, and Holy Spirit came and just knocked her to the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, but that was a lesson for me. That I'd been a Christian maybe 2 years, if that. And that was a lesson for me because I became quite, look at me, look what I've done. I'm walking on water. Yeah. Then God knocked me right back down to the ground to tell me it's not about you, sweet pea. It's absolutely not about you. And I've learnt that continually on my journey, that it's not about me. I'm a link in a chain to change in someone else's life. And if I choose to sit on my laurels, then actually that's going to impact somebody else's progress or not. So then from that, I then started to see sex workers. God was opening my eyes everywhere. So my church is in Ilford, and on Ilford Lane, I started to see a lot of sex workers on that road. And I was like, we've got to do something. So me and my naivety, myself and a friend, we went down. We went and did a survey with a clipboard to ask people, what is it?
Solution orientated. This is what Anana really. I was going to say, this is
yeah, no, seriously. So I went down to ask, like, if we could support you as a church, what would you want to see? Kind of whatever. Even asking them, we've got like a Friday thing for your children. They're looking at us like our children are in care. Do you know what I mean? Like they're with social services. So anyway, that birthed City Women Outreach, which was my first sort of ministry that we done and we learned a lot through that. We used to be mistaken as prostitutes. We'd had eggs and onions and other food thrown at us by but that was an amazing ministry, as in, again, it was God showing us we were just planting seeds.
How did the women respond to you guys, or you women?
What we had to do was create a system where we were there regularly. So it took time for them to build up the trust.
Right, okay, understandably.
Yeah, so we had to be consistent. And you have to be tactful. There's no point going to people, Jesus loves you, when their kids have just been taken off them the day before. Because for them, that means nothing. So God, I was like, God, how can I be a vessel of your love in a way that they can receive it. And so we started just to build relationships. And then it was about signposting. And then we created kind of a network of organizations that we could signpost these women.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, God, that was I think with me, with Ministries, I birthed them. And then God takes me onto something else and I have to let go of them, which is painful.
Right, okay.
But it's not mine. And one of the things I wanted to say about the glory, I just got so annoyed for going out for 4 years and not seeing one woman give her life. I'm like, what is this? And God just was quite stern with me. It's not about you. I just need you to be obedient to what I've asked you to do. Leave their life to me, kind of thing, you know. And so what I would say is that ministry is not always about a platform or what everybody can see and everybody thinking what you're doing is an amazing thing. It's just doing what God has asked you to do in a particular situation. So yeah, and then I started a single mums project in my church because I felt that I was a single mum when I first came into church, and I felt that there wasn't a place for me because you've got your singles clubs, you've got your married clubs.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean? And they have like cell groups in the week that actually don't fit in. Who's going to look after your children when you want it to go to a cell group?
Right, okay.
So I started a community for single mums within the church. Again, that got handed over to somebody else. Then City Women, we joined up with another organisation, and that became Women on the Frontline Ministries.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So what, you're a trustee or something with that?
So I'm the chair of the board of trustees now.
Right, okay.
So my life, so God has expanded my life in other ways in terms of my work. So at that time, when I started these things, I was a receptionist, but now I'm a program director. So at work, that takes up a significant amount of my time. So I've had to let go of some things and allow, you know, God to use other people to fill those spaces. So yeah, I'm the chair of the trust.
And what does it do?
It's specifically about supporting and helping sex workers come off the street.
Okay.
So there's two groups of women that we would come across. Some are substance misusers, extreme substance misusers, and then the other extreme is girls that are trafficked. So we come across a lot of girls, young girls. There was one young girl in particular, and I said to her, she said she was 20, but I don't think she was. And I said to her, if you could be anything you wanted to be, what would that be? And she said, the best prostitute I could be.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, why would you say that? Like, what? And then getting into the conversation with her, she's Eastern European. She was sold as a child into a pickpocketing ring. She was taken all around Europe as a child. She was sold on to different families. And then when she was old enough, they then sold her into a ring that then takes her around Europe prostituting. So how would she know anything else for her life? How could me saying to her, you know, Jesus loves you, is gonna penetrate? So yeah.
So let me ask a question. I mean, because it sounds like you in terms of women on the front line, you work with women or you meet women that are quite damaged, really, in terms of their self-esteem or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, like I said, this whole podcast is about women in ministry. I'm used to going to events where I get empowered and inspired and all of that. How, when you go out to meet women like the women that you meet, how does that work? I mean, I'm not saying you're holding a meeting, but you minister to them, you talk to them, you befriend them, you signpost them. How do you help to kind of build up that sense of self and what aspire and helping them to aspire for the positive things there are in life?
I think sometimes it's about, and that might come from my training as a probation officer. I used to be a probation officer. And in that, you would try to look at, so if I was supervising a drug dealer, my encouragement to them would be, you know how to run a business. You have transferable skills, and get them to start thinking outside of what they're already, what they've been shown by the streets, because there's so much more that they could do. And when you talk to them about actually what somebody in business does, they're like, but that's what I do. Exactly. The world might tell you that you need to stay in your drug dealing box, but actually, and I saw great success with the people that I worked with in terms of people. I had somebody, one of my people that I supervised, he turned up at my church and he put his drug phones in the offering. He said, Tanya, I'm done. So with the women on the street, you have less time, and sometimes you don't have that capacity to build up that relationship. But it is about trying to draw out and listening to actually some of the, so they may have a desire to have their children back, or they may have a desire to have their own home, or, you know, because they're sleeping in their car. I had one woman, she was sleeping in her car with her partner, and he was sending her out on the streets. So I'm like, right, okay, so this is your situation. What is it that you'd want for yourself? Like, you know, it doesn't have to be a mansion. What is it that you, I would just like, even if it was a room in a shared house. Okay, so we're going to try and help you do that. But what I won't do, or what the organisation or chapter ministry won't do, is do it all for people.
Right, okay.
You've got to get them to take steps, and you support them as they take those steps. So you'll see people come out of it, and then we hand them over to other organisations,
right, okay,
for them to then. But it is about highlighting that there is hope in the midst of darkness. And sometimes it's even about sharing my own story, or sharing aspects of it with them, to say, I was here, but actually, if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for knowing that actually I'm not a mistake, you're not a mistake, you know, because that's what they think, that what's the point, you know.
because I remember you coming to the Ark to share your story, which is a story of growing up with a like a, sounds like a mum from the 60s, you know, flower power and all that kind of stuff, and then your own personal experience with domestic abuse, which is what a lot of women experience, and coming to faith, and how God helped you with that. And that now, you know, you're a high flyer in the probation service. Not only that, you've been honored by Her Majesty the Queen with an OBE. So when people do hear your story, and me even listening to you now, it's like you've got this profound love for Jesus. Not only that, he's taken your life from A and taken you to Z, not even B. You've gone to you've gone to Z.
Yeah,
So,
I think my life's extreme.
yeah, so in terms of like all the work that you do, you've got the Girls to School charity going, you've got the Women on the Frontiers thing going, you worked with the homeless, you kind of one day, I wouldn't like to be in your team, said to everybody, let's go out and meet the women that these men are most probably pimping, having sex with, or whatever. So you've been kind of quite spontaneous, and you've worked with people that, you know, Jesus would want us to meet. What have you learned in terms of your faith and about yourself with regards to the work that with regards to what you've done in ministry? Because it's more than just Girls to School, which is what
no, definitely. What have I learned? I think I've learned that I need to be patient, because I do think in the early days, I wanted things to happen now. I wanted doors to open now. I wanted actually for accolade.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
you're honest.
No, it's, well, I'm as transparent as I can be. And I was like, why are people not recognizing me for what I'm doing? You know, I'm out there till 2 o'clock in the morning, and that, you know, God has humbled me in all of it. And I just, in some circumstances, and the people that I grew up with, I have to say that by the grace of God. Do you know what I mean? Because I could have so easily have been just taken one little slight wrong turn. And I mean, I took a lot of wrong turns, but, you know, I just feel that God was catching me, you know. And so I'm grateful, I'm thankful. And sometimes you can forget your journey, and you lose the kind of appreciation of it. And I think sometimes working in the ministries that I do helps to keep me grounded in that, you know, I am no better than anyone else. I'm no better than a street child in Accra or a trafficked girl on Ilford Lane in God's eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like, and if I can impact and change a life, that for me is reward enough. I don't need anything from people. So I think I've evolved on my journey, to the point where I don't need, but I get frustrated. I do get frustrated with, I get frustrated with church, I have to say.
In what sense?
And Christians. I get, well, no, I'm a Christian. I get frustrated in terms of sometimes, and because I'm so focused on what I'm focused on, you're focused on what you're focused, everyone's focused on their own ministry. So to me, mine is the priority, because that's what my focus is. And I can go to 10 churches and talk about women on the frontline ministries. I could go out there, black churches, black-led churches, and say, if we think about these girls that have been trafficked here, this is modern day slavery, right? At the end of your road, I know that there are girls who are being forced to sleep with 10, 15 men a night and get no income from that. They're sharing a room with 10 other women. They just get fed if they're lucky. You see them eat sunflower seeds a lot as something to sustain them. And then there's an offering and I get £2.50. And I'm like,
such a laugh.
Well, not £2.50, but you know what I mean? I don't know if it's because it's the subject matter, because they're an annoyance to me, actually, because why am I going to help support them when actually, you know, I'm finding condoms outside my front door or whatever. But if we don't galvanize and come to help have a safe house for these girls, or have something where we can actually remove them, then the problem's going to remain the same. But when I go out and talk about girls to school and the sanitary pads for something, we're happy to help girls in Africa, and people give. So I don't know. I'm slightly frustrated by it.
Okay, so on the one hand, you're getting supported. On the other hand, it's like,
yeah. Well, no, girls to school, yeah,
that's what
but the sex workers, you put, you know, and do we want these women coming to our church? I'm not sure. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I shouldn't even laugh. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I understand.
So
I think it's education, because I think more people are made aware of that whole sex trafficking, inverted commas, industry, the impact that it has. I think that it works to change people. I mean, I'm part of an organization, Black Church Domestic Abuse Forum, that's just recently been launched, and it's all about raising the church's awareness of domestic abuse, what constitutes domestic abuse, and sharing and teaching how they can practically support. So it's sometimes with some things, as you're finding out, it's about education, because there's things that are distasteful. You just think, and you know, you said that they might find a condom outside their door, but if you explain the journey of that person, then that's where people can start to get compassion, because they can understand that person's journey and stuff like that. So I just want to go back to girls to school. In terms of, you go and you help these women, you've done teaching sessions out in Ghana and Kenya. What are the young ladies saying to you? I'm going to assume that they're aged between about 11 up to about 18. What do they come back and say?
So, and again, I think most of my journey has been training for this. So the probation work, the street outreach work, because you've got to learn to maintain boundaries, because otherwise you could end up, you know, broke, because you'd be giving everybody all your money. So I try to be pro-social in that how I handle myself is what the expectation is from them as individuals as well. So they love it. They appreciate the fact that somebody's come from so far. I educate them in the fact that what they experience in Ghana is not just happening in Ghana. So like domestic violence, for example, sexual harassment, and that opens their eyes to think, oh my gosh, actually, if you've come from a place where all of that stuff happens, but you've done well, then that's something that I can possibly achieve. So I remember the first conversation I had with some of the girls in the Futurist Female Academy. When I said, God, where do you see yourself? What do you want to be if you could dream anything, you know, kind of blue sky thinking? They would say, you know, something really quite small. The last time I went, one of the girls, she stood up and she said, I'm going to be a lawyer. And that was just, you know, and I said, right, we need to work with this girl and we need to support her, to enable her to, because that the seed is planted now that she can be more than what she can see. And that for me is what we need to do. But we have to have the right structures in place to enable them to be supported through that journey. So I have also run workshops with professionals out there as well.
Right.
Because you know, culturally, it's their children, they should be seen and not heard. They don't have a voice, they don't have an opinion. And it's like that here, but it's even more so there. So I've run workshops with police, social workers, head teachers, and culturally, that's for a whole nother conversation. But so like women there don't spend any of their own money, for example. So even if you earn more than your husband, he still pays all the bills. So I was trying
That's
to
an interesting arrangement.
I'm trying to talk to them about equality.
They're not interested.
Well, the women were like, yes, we want equality, but we want to keep our money.
No, I'm joking there.
No, but the men were like, how is this equality? Why I'm not sleeping when I know how much money she's got in the bank.
So what, don't they help at all then?
No.
Okay, that's an interesting.
Well, the reason they don't is because I'm generalizing, right?
Yeah,
obviously it's going to be fact, but one of the things that I did tease out of them is that if you give him money, he will have disposable income to spend on another woman.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, that is for another podcast.
Yeah, so it's all. So I try to do things holistically. So if I can speak to the workers that work with these young people, then actually plant seeds about how they can engage with them differently to help encourage and water the seeds that we're planting, because I don't live there, but I can only do this every time I visit, but they're with them all the time. So yeah.
Okay, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I can't even always say that it's an enjoyable thing, if I'm honest. Sometimes it's a struggle, but I just am burdened by, if I have a solution in my head to something, then I can't sit on it. And I suppose I am driven by change. I'm driven by the prospect that people can live their best life.
Okay.
And enabling them and being a link in the, because it's not all about me. There are people, and I'm a link, as I constantly say, I'm a link in a chain, to helping to bring that, and one of the scriptures actually in my early walk was Isaiah 61, and that for me, where God talks about loving justice, and so that's my heart. That really is my heart, and he's rebuilding, and we are here as labourers to rebuild the streets and the devastation that's happened. So for me, that's my role.
Okay. There's many women who feel called to ministry or run a ministry.
Yeah.
What 3 pieces of advice do you have for them?
I have a lot of women ask me this question.
Oh, do you?
I do, because I think people feel like they should be doing something. And I think we should be doing something. Everyone should be doing something. If we all did something, the world would be a better place. But I don't think people should rush into it. Like, what is your burden? And it will affect us differently. And my burden changes. I will have something that will really, I can't let go of it, and I feel it in the pit of my stomach. There is something that I need to be able to do or support it, either financially. I think sometimes people think it's about rolling your sleeves up, but prayer, finance, supporting ministries with finance is actually enabling that work to continue. So the sun's shining through.
I know, raise. I think God was saying something.
No, don't. You'll get me back into that puffed up space. No, I've moved on from that. So yeah, so what is your burden? Like, and know what that is, and then don't rush. Don't rush, because sometimes God takes you on a journey that doesn't feel like it's about what you want to do, but it's all learning. He trains us up in what it is that we need to do, so that we can be the best at it. And I see a lot of people jump into things and then they just abandon it, and actually that can be harmful.
No,
I've got an idea and it's a wonderful one, and it's and you jump into it and you create something, and then actually God wasn't necessarily asking you to do that.
I think it's really good what you said about supporting other ministries, because that's what I've done in the past. Use my PR skills, or you can give money, or you can just give prayer support. You don't have to necessarily rush and set something up. There's so many ways that you can get involved in exciting initiatives that people are doing for God.
Yeah. So my initial burden was the women on the streets, but that didn't come for a few years. My training ground was Teen Challenge, and being able to work with people or engage with people that are not part of my world. So people that are literally sleeping on the street, people who smell. There was a man who had his foot was gangrene, and I was like, my God. But it actually, you know, I saw the worst. But that was my training ground for what God was taking me to. Once I was kind of obedient in that, my eyes were open to the girls on the streets. And then it developed. So when I look back, I think, wow, that was a journey that God took me on. And also, I don't think I really wanted to do it either. Like I was like, really, do I? But I am, I really do walk by faith. And everything I've done, career-wise, ministry-wise, God opens a door and I don't feel equipped for it. But I just step out the boat.
Well, there's a saying in our church, the Black churches, that says where God gives a vision, he makes provision. So whether that's provision in terms of finances or you having the skill set or helping you develop the skill set.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he's done that in my career as well, you know. Yeah. So it's yeah. And lastly, I think, and again, don't go into something for self. What is that ministry? Who is that ministry going to benefit? What is the purpose of it? Is it to show love to people? Is it to encourage? Is it to bring about change in their lives? I mean, whatever that might be. I mean, a couple of years ago, me and my daughter came up with, we were thinking about the elderly people that lived on our road, and we were like, we'd seen something about people not being able to put electric in their meter as well as buy food. And so we were like, should we just buy people shopping and just leave it on their doorstep? You know, that there is a but I cannot take on everything that I see either.
No,
I have to use wisdom in that. So that I didn't do. I just said, God, you're gonna have to find someone else to do it, because actually I can't pick up everything that burdens me. So yeah, my journey through Teen Challenges is everything has led to. So even the sanitary pads, that's been a massive journey. It wasn't a strategic plan that I had and I've delivered against it. It was God's opened a door, I've taken a step. God's opened a door, I've taken a step. And it's just been me and God, and that's how my relationship with him has been.
Okay, I've got about 2 more questions. How often do you go abroad when you go out to meet the people?
As many times in the year as I can.
Oh, right, okay.
I travel. Gosh, I think I went to Ghana 3 times last year.
Oh, right, okay. So you are there quite frequently. So what are the main challenges in terms of running a non-profit that's got an international clientele and where you have to actually travel to go and meet the people that you work with?
I think
that you help, sorry, not work with.
Yeah, I think one of the things is maintaining consistency, because when you're not there, they forget about you, and actually you're trying to build something that is connected. The cultural differences can be a challenge sometimes. The different, because I'm quite organised in the way that I work, and I work in a particular way, and it's managing my own expectations, because they're not necessarily going to, and it doesn't mean that they are not. They're not skilled, but their ways of doing things are different to me. So that can be definitely a challenge. But apart from that, I mean, the time zone's the same. So when I go there, I take my work laptop, and days that I'm not working on the charity, I work. I've also linked in with the prisons out there. And again, I just contacted somebody who worked in the prisons on LinkedIn and said, I'm coming to Ghana, I want to visit one of your prisons. They don't normally let non-Ghanaians go around the prisons, but they let me.
Oh, wow.
I went around the whole prison. It was amazing, 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 amazing prison. I really enjoyed my time. And then I got introduced to the Director General of all the prisons in Ghana. So I went to see him, and we're looking at how, because I work in rehabilitation, so I cover prisons, probation, and the youth custody service in the work that I do. And part of that is rehabilitation. So the Director General wants to work towards moving away from punishment to actually how can they help support to rehabilitate those in custody. So I'll probably doing some work with them as well in the future.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So I've got one last question. We were we kind of I didn't even ask you half the questions on this, but never mind.
Because I don't. You have to go. Now, can you stop talking?
It's okay. No, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
Last but not least, what plans, exciting plans, do you have for your ministries this year?
So I've taken the decision in the last few weeks to step down as chair of Women on the Frontline Ministries.
Okay.
And again, I think that is about letting go. I still want to be on the board of trustees because I have a view that is quite different from everyone else's. So I think I've got something to offer, but I don't have the time to chair. So I'm going to step away from that. And the women, the girls to school, it's going to become a profit-making business.
Right. Okay. Okay. So there's a shift, which has kind of evolved on your journey in terms of your work. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds really exciting. It's been good to hear about your journey. Anybody who wants to check out Tanya's Girls to School charity, you can visit www.girls2school.org. So check it out, and you can check out her Facebook page. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks a lot for joining with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.